Welcome back to my channel, Light of the Knowledge. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about the firmament or the expanse, and we will scrutinize the scriptures based on the whole concept of the scriptures. Okay, but before that, let me play the video.
It's such a privilege to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, today we're going to talk about firmament. I got to tell you, that title doesn't do anything for me. You got to help me understand. I know this is something that is kind of new things that have happened in you that you want to share with us. Will you bring the listeners on board?
Don, I want to tell you, over the past...
Notice that this guy is a Christian astronomer, scientist, doctorate. Like I said, I don't want to demonizing the preachers out there. What I have in my heart, I just don't want God to be maligned, to be insulted by other scientists. You might say, why you don't respect their what they taught or what they believe? Remember, Jesus Christ did not respect the false teaching, okay, but he corrected it. And that's also my duty today, to correct the wrong, because I'm protecting his word and also the glory of God. Because that was what Paul had said in Corinthians, that is the stronghold of Satan. Because it might create or result atheistic world. Okay? And that's what's happening today because of the false interpretation. Because Paul said, they want to be teachers of the law, but they do not know what they are talking about or what they so confidently affirm. And because of that, they will repute the word of God, or they would malign God because of that false teaching. That's why people today, they no longer believe the creation. They're trying to remove God in the equation because of this false preachers, false teaching around the world.
Year or two, my whole understanding of this has changed. I've changed my mind about stuff, and it's rocked my cosmology to the core. So I'm excited about it.
You still believe that God made the heavens and the earth?
Oh yes, in 6 days, a few thousand years ago, but I've got a different appreciation, I think.
A few thousand ago, the universe. Okay, that's another. 6 to 10,000 is the life here on earth. Okay, that transform our planet. Okay, 6 to 10,000 roughly, all the animals, plants, the complex life. That's the 6 to 10,000. I agree with that. But the universe and the planet Earth, no.
Sort of where things are and how we put it together. And I think this is important because I've been stymied for decades trying to put together what I
imagine he studied decades, okay?
Consider a good creation model of astronomy. If we can't get something this fundamental right, then what hope do we have? So I think we're making progress now. So I'm excited about this.
We're excited to share your insights.
All right. Well, anyway, the firmament, or I'll call it expanse, is probably a better term for all this. Let's go back to Genesis. We should go back to Genesis and read about this. The very first verse of Genesis is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's pretty straightforward, you'd think. It's talked about separate things, maybe, but you're looking at that and those kind of jump out at me.
Right.
The heavens and the earth. What does this mean? By the way, you may notice that it's heavens here, but in some translations it's heaven.
So which is correct?
Yes. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but no,
right.
it's tricky to do this. You'll see why in just a minute, but that's the very beginning thing here, and many of us, including me, for many, many years, thought that this was, the heavens here was the creation of space, as we know, what we call outer space today.
Okay, the creation of space. God did not create the vacuum of space. Okay? If he's talking about the distance of the planet, yes. That is created from point A to point B, from Earth to other solar system, or from here to Alpha Centauri A. That's pretty space. But the vacuum of space is not the infinity. I'm talking about the infinite darkness, the infinite cold and darkness. No.
Now, of course, you know, in ancient times, the Hebrews, well, nobody really understood what we mean by outer space today. It's a different way of looking at things. That's a modern concept. Okay, well, first of all, I want to show this photograph to you. That's a photograph of the center of the Milky Way.
Wow.
I took that recently. I was in South Africa, and I took this with my camera, put it on a tripod, and had some help with it. A fellow helped me do some Photoshop on it, but that is a really nice photo of the Milky Way, I do believe. You know, the Milky Way is our galaxy, contains a few hundred billion stars, and we're...
The reason he showed this one, because he's trying to put the firmament, or the sky, our sky, trying to fit this Genesis chapter 1 into our own galaxy, or in all galaxies, in like the universe. Okay?
just one of those
Billion, yeah.
huge array of stars. But you know, we
Notice he uses the word array. That's array in chapter 2, verse 1. Okay? Which I showed you already. That was not the starry host.
read on day 2. I just read the beginning of the day 1 account,
Right.
Genesis 1:1, but we learned that on day 2, God made this thing called the firmament. And I put in there expanse because a lot of modern translations render it expanse rather than it as firmament. And I think that's a better rendering altogether. And you know, going back 45 years ago when I was in high school, I read this in the Genesis account, and I wondered, what is this firmament thing? And I've just puzzled over that for years, and I'm glad to share with you today some of my conclusions I've reached. Well, we know he made it on day 2, whatever it is, and I want to read out here, if I could, the day 2 account, only found in Genesis verses 6 through 8 here, and it says, "And God said, let there be an
Notice that he said only found that firmament, okay, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 6 to 8. That was wrong.
expanse in the midst of the waters." I want to guess waters there too. "And let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heaven." And it says there, the evening and the morning were the second day. Notice the expanse is mentioned several times
It
there.
sure is.
And the waters are mentioned several times. It turns out waters are mentioned a number of times.
Lots of
Is it true also that the water is all over the infinite space? Okay? Okay, it's all over the universe. Okay, that's very true. And we can also call the outer space with the word expanse or firmament. Because how do you imagine that outer space? There's no word for outer space, but the Bible, God called it nothing. The nothingness, which is not nothing. So you can also call that expanse. And notice that there is no difference with this expanse right now. What I'm showing you, this space in the infinity. What is our difference is we have the huge asteroid. Okay, let me call that. With a beautiful cloud to protect us against the sun. Okay? I call the earth huge asteroid, like potato. It's not perfectly round. The circle of the earth is the perfect round, which is the heavens, the sky, atmosphere, our atmosphere, stratosphere, lithosphere, ridiculous sphere. Okay, all that is the circle, perfect circle. Okay? That's the circle of the earth. But the earth itself is like a potato that is not perfect because there's mountain, there's a plain, there's valleys. Come on. Okay?
Water.
And the numerous times in the Genesis account of creation, 2 Peter 3 talks about the waters, going back to the creation being very abundant. So let's note a few things here. By the way, this is a photograph of the Pleiades. I didn't take that, but a friend of mine did. The Pleiades is a star cluster. It's prominent in the winter sky, and it's mentioned 3 times in the Old Testament, twice in Job and once in the book of Amos. Well, what can we note about what we've read so far? First of all, what we've talked about so far is day 1 and day 2. And day 1 and day 2 appear to be different things being talked about. So we need to be careful we don't read into day 1 some things that maybe were on day 2 and vice versa. That's tricky, and it's caused some rethinking on my part in recent year or so. Also, there's waters above this thing. Whatever it is, it says it's to separate the waters from below, from the waters above. Again, water playing a very key role.
It's very easy to interpret that verse or to know that verse because we have the rain. We know that comes from above, but it comes originally from the water. It's just equilibrium, balancing of nature. Okay? So we don't need to imagine that is the outer space. Okay? We don't need to do that. Let's stick the verse in the Bible.
In the creation account. And I've been puzzled a lot, really. These waters above, what are they? Where are they? And what are they doing today? That's a big question. And it's changed my way of looking at this entirely once again. And also, as an astronomer, I'm very interested on stars because, well, I study stars. Or people specialize. People do different things in astronomy, but I do stellar astronomy. That makes me a stellar astronomer, you see.
I think so.
All right. But the stars were not made until day 4.
The stars were not made until day 4. What is that light then? What is that light in Genesis chapter 1? That there's evening and there's morning. Oh, that was the light of God, Brother Henry. You mean God has a day and night also? Sometimes He is night, sometimes He is daylight, sometimes He is night. Is that so? That's not God. Come on. So you cannot count the day. You cannot say there's night and day if there's no sunshine. Okay? That's why watch my previous first video and the second video. This is the third video.
So whatever's going on here on day 1.
By the way, I want to explain to you Genesis, in addition to that, Genesis chapter 1, let me give you an example. Like the Father and the Son is talking. Son, Jesus Christ, or the Son, the Messiah. Okay, Father, the atmosphere is still dark. The sun is not yet visible, so we cannot count the first day. Oh, don't worry, Daddy. It will just come that eventually this hydrocarbon will be no more. Oh, there you go. Yeah, now we can start the day 1. That is Genesis 1. Okay?
1 and day 2, it didn't
different than
include
making
stars.
the stars.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
And we need to keep that in mind. Again, we don't want to try to bring things from day 4 into day 1 and day 2. We want to keep day 1 and day 2 straight. I think many times we've kind of blurred those distinctions. We need to be very careful because God went to the trouble of making a distinction.
He did.
And so we need to honor that distinction, and maybe there's some subtle clues that we can pick up in all of that. Now, remember it talked about the heavens. God made the heavens on day 1, heavens and earth, he says. But then he makes this expanse on day 2, and at the end of the day 2 account, he equates the expanse with the heavens. Says God called the expanse the heavens. So it kind of puts us in a curious position. Did God create the heavens 2 times, once on day 1 and once on day 2.
A quick reading would have you think it's on day 1 and it's also on day 2.
And that's tricky.
It is.
And I don't think he created the same thing twice. He created it once, whatever it was. Now, it could be talking about 2 different things. A lot of different possibilities here. But for a very long time, I want to point out that I thought that God made space on day 1. And so when he starts talking about this expanse on day 2, what is that? What is that sort of thing? And the way we interpret that will have profound effects upon our cosmology and ultimately upon our astronomy. And hey, as an astronomer, as a creation astronomer, I'm keenly interested to find out what kind of model I can build based upon the biblical data there. You know, we scientists build models or theories all the time.
Sure.
We creation scientists do the same thing. It's just our worldview is different. We start with Scripture rather than starting with man's ideas about billions of years. And
Which is good. You start in the scriptures, and then that's what we're going to do today.
evolution of everything in existence. Well, firmament, heaven. These 2 terms sometimes used interchangeably, it seems. Well, take a look at the word heaven. The Hebrew word used there is shemayim. When you see that I-M ending, it means it's a plural. What's in?
Okay, what you gonna do? Okay, because I don't want too long video. It's like a boring. You watch this video, okay? Origins, okay? The firmament of Genesis 1. The whole sum up of his story is he's trying to prove that the firmament or expanse or the sky is the universe, okay? But I will prove to you that he was wrong in saying that only from Genesis chapter 1 verse 6 to 8 God mentioned the expanse. That was wrong, okay? Go back to replay this video, okay? Okay. There's also expanse in verse 20. Okay? Let me read to you. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." Okay? That's another expanse. And that is the explanation of what was the expanse in chapter 1, verse 6 to 10 or 9. Now, I have a question. Have you seen the birds flying in that expanse? Have you seen the birds? Like the eagle is flying in the universe or in other galaxy? No way! No way! That's the expanse. Okay? Let me read again. And God said, verse 20, 120, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." And this is called also firmament of heaven. Have you seen the birds flying there? No. No. So you don't need to interpret that one is the other solar system or the galaxy, the clouds there, we call it dust of cloud in the outer space. No. I'm sorry again. Like I said, I don't want to demonizing or this scientists, but I have to consider the verse only. Okay, God bless. Thank you. See you again in my next video. Please subscribe to help me keep going.